please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, sponsored by Gamer Saloon. It's Friday, March 12th, 2021. Alex Barutha with Shannon, McKeown, and Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard!
You can find this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, rotowire.com, and of course YouTube, where we would appreciate not only a nice review, but fan feedback, which is the segment we'll be getting to later on the podcast. Let's kick things off right away with the most important news of the day. Tony Snell hit a game-winning three-pointer to lift the Hawks.
I had to immediately text you guys as soon as I saw that. Punching bag of the pod, Tony Snell.
Bucks and Pistons legend Tony Snell, but now he's on the Hawks. Game-winning three-pointer over the Raptors yesterday, which also helped me win my three-way parlay on the gambling roundtable, so that was nice. It was his only shot of the second half, very Tony Snell-esque, and it was wide open. Like Ken mentioned, we have taunted Tony Snell plenty of times on the podcast, so we have to give him his moment. But we're going to ultimately use this as a segue to talk.
Also, the YouTubers, Alex, huge Tony Snell fans. He's big on the tube.
We're going to use this to talk about the Raptors, actually. Shannon, how do you feel about the Raptors potentially trading Kyle Lowry? Are you in a position where you want to sell high on Lowry just in case?
No, not really. I feel like any team that's going to acquire Kyle Lowry, I'm assuming it would be for a starting guard spot. So it's tough. I also still believe, where the Raptors are positioned, I would be surprised if they actually move Kyle Lowry. And we've seen throughout the years a good 4 or 5 reports that the Raptors have Kyle Lowry on the table, and then they never end up trading him. So it's one of those things where I'll believe it when I see it. And it's always worth selling high. If you really believe that he's going to get traded, you can always float him out there and try to get a great deal. But I wouldn't make it necessarily a priority.
There is one possible sort of dream situation for the Raptors. With Lowry's contract ending at this season, you could deal him to his hometown Sixers, get Matisse Tebboune, which I'm probably butchering, and re-sign him in the summer and bring him back to Toronto when they're actually playing in Toronto. If there was ever a season for the Raptors to tank, it's when they're playing in an empty Tampa Bay arena. So, but you're right. Obviously, he means a ton to the organization. But if you're confident you could re-sign him for next year in Toronto, I'd at least explore it. But as fantasy-wise, you're right. I don't see why you'd deal him. My chances of that are probably pretty low.
Yeah, Raptors are 17-20 right now, 8 games back of first spot, and yeah, I think their upside is
territory. They're playing territory.
Their upside might be like 4th best team in the conference. Okay, so speaking of the Heat are kind of struggling this season, but we have Bam Adebayo miss last game, Ken.
Yeah, he's not going to play again tonight due to knee tendonitis. That's his 3rd game out with that. And also, big name DeMar DeRozan is out for his father's funeral. Our sympathies to the DeRozan family. Guys, you think the Heat can put together another run at the end of the season like they did last year?
I think they started off the year so bad, and they were missing so many guys. Jimmy Butler missed so much time with COVID.
And I think ankle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can get back into the swing of things, but I'm not expecting them to make kind of that underdog sort of. They're not even really the underdog story anymore, but I don't think they'll make it to the finals or maybe even the conference finals, if that's what you're asking.
No, I would be surprised if they make it even to the second round, second round's doable. But yes, conference finals, I would definitely be surprised by. I feel like there's a clear-cut top 3 teams in the East right now with the Sixers, Nets, and Bucks, and I really don't think there's anyone that's all too close to those 3. I guess Heat and Celtics both right there, but I think the Celtics are better positioned than the Heat even. I just don't believe the bubble play for the Heat is necessarily a reflection of their actual how good they actually are. They played above their heads in the bubble, and that was we knew something weird was going to happen with the bubble, and that's what it was. I mean, it was the Heat making the finals. No one would have predicted that, and I highly doubt it would have happened if it was a regular season last year.
Alex, take us to news in Golden State.
Yeah, James Wiseman benched in the first half of the loss to the Clippers last night. It wasn't coaching related. He missed his COVID test during the break, so that the league kind of steps in there.
Well, it was coaching related in that Kerr was angry at Wiseman for missing the test, which did force him to miss Wednesday's practice. And so to punish him for he forgot. He admitted later he totally forgot about the test. So Kerr, actually, I don't think they played him until the fourth quarter. He still actually had a decent line. But anyway, he kind of a bonehead rookie move. And I think Kerr used it as a nice teaching moment and called him out in the press. Like, let the press know this is because he spaced on his test. And Wiseman apologized a lot. It did make me kind of think, though, guys, what do we think is Wiseman's second half forecast? He came out of the shoot red hot, then sort of faded heading into the break. What do you guys predict for Wiseman?
Well, I mean, right now he's outside the top 180 for the season. So he just has not been a useful fantasy player. And even in DFS, the upside really hasn't been there that often. So I don't know. I mean, the Warriors are obviously, they're going for wins right now. They have, they want to develop Wiseman, but not as much as they want to get wins. And I think Steve Kerr still trusts Kevon Looney more. Looney knows the system more. And they play Draymond at center too, right? So that kind of complicates things. So I don't have my outlook isn't that high. I think he maybe could crack the top 180, right? And maybe be worth, 14-team league status, but I wouldn't, I'm not banking on it.
My dog has a hot take. He thinks Wiseman, they're going to give him minutes and that the Warriors are going to tank because they're all in for next year when Clay comes back. He was scratching my chair. He's really adamant about it.
Yeah, I think it just depends on where the Warriors are in relation to playoffs and if they're gonna factor into that. If they're in the mix, then that gives them an excuse to continue handling Wiseman the same way they have been. If they fall out and they're just out of contention altogether, I could see him having the final 3-4 weeks of the season, just getting 30 minutes and having a pretty monster production for that run. But I also think it's somewhat unlikely that they'll be totally out of the mix.
They need the Kings or the Thunder to pass them and that seems unlikely.
That does seem unlikely. Absolutely does that seem unlikely. So I just, it's a tough one. I still like him long-term as a prospect.
Sure.
And seeing what he did last night, he didn't enter the game. I think he played the entire fourth quarter. And they were down by 30, so it's tough to really properly gauge it. But it's still seeing someone go after 14 and 7 in 12 minutes, 6 for 7 from the floor. It's certainly encouraging.
He stopped blocking shots for some reason. I wonder if was he selling out for them early and they're making him play more conservative D, or is he just I don't know, kind of in a rookie days? Or is he going to hit the wall?
Yeah, it's tough. His per minute production's been pretty solid. So I think with him, it's just a matter of can he get those minutes. So over 30 per 36, he's at 20.8 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks, 52% from the floor, 61.5% from the line. So that's not great. And 39% from downtown. He's not taking a lot of 3-pointers though. Even per 36, it's under 2 3-point attempts per game. But still, I mean, he's showing 21 and 10 upside. For a 19-year-old, that's very encouraging. He's just, he's got to be coached up, and I think he will be. It just seems pretty obvious it's not going to happen in year one.
I like your idea though. Maybe he's a playoff stash. Maybe they just, when they're out of it, fantasy playoff stash, that is.
Sure.
If you've got their bench room, I can see them being out of it, him getting 30 a night. Alex, we got some funky news out of Houston. Not totally surprising, but interesting.
Yeah, PJ Tucker traveled with the team yesterday, but he refused to play. That's kind of the word that's coming out of Houston. He is frustrated with the lack of a trade. He's a free agent at the end of the season, and the contract talks between him and the Rockets stalled. I would assume that's on his end, not wanting to play for the Rockets, who are clearly not interested in winning anymore.
Well, he's been griping about his contract all season, I think. He wanted it renewed for multiple years, which seems like an odd demand on a rebuilding team, but maybe that's to force his hand to get out of there, right?
It's not like he's getting his jersey retired in Houston, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what is he like? Give me 4 years, $60 million.
PJ leaves.
Yeah. But ultimately, PJ Tucker, he's going to get either bought out or traded, and that turns into good news for, if you're a manager and you have Jayshawn Tate, if you have Justin Patton. We'll get to some guys in the waiver wire section of the article that might be options on.
Vermont's own Anthony Lamb signed a 2-way deal, scored first points ever for a UVM basketball player in the NBA. Thank you, Vermont fans.
I would have thought that PJ Tucker's lines on an almost nightly basis, the 6 times that he's played 30 minutes or more and had 0 points scored this season, or the 4 other times he's had 0 points scored, or, the times he goes out there, plays 25 minutes, 0 points, 2 rebounds, 0 assists. Those all are indicators of him not wanting to play as well. So I wasn't surprised by Thursday's news.
You think this helped the offense?
The Rockets were not very good last night. They lost by 20, and the game was never really close.
Was that 14 in a row for them?
Yeah.
Yeah, losses? Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, Alex, we had a ton of guys come back. It makes sense. They had the All-Star break to get healthy. Walk us through all the returning players last night. Good news.
Yeah, there's probably someone on this list that I'm missing, but this is the bulk of it. Marcus Smart had 19 points. Devontae Graham, 18 minutes. Aaron Gordon played 14 minutes. They're on a back-to-back. The Magic are, so there's a chance he might not play today. Lauri Markkanen played 28 minutes, scored 23 points. Otto Porter played 18 minutes, and DeLon Wright played 22 minutes. And we also have Larry Nance Jr. and Kevin Love. Larry Nance Jr. is coming back today. Kevin Love is questionable. And this leads us, Ken, into our fan feedback.
Yeah, I want to thank our fans for watching YouTube the last week. The episode did well, and we got some great questions. So I'll do the questioning, and you guys give us some answers. First, our fan Akshar Iyer, who asked, "Do I drop LaMarcus Aldridge for Kevin Porter Jr.?" I want to give Akshar some credit. I think he posted the question before the buyout. To his credit, when did do we know what day the buyout happened, or they announced LMA wasn't coming back? What day that occurred?
It was Wednesday.
Oh, so that would have been before the pod. Yeah. So he knew. Anyway, he said also, but called the Kevin Porter before his 10 assists last night coming off for the Rockets. So I assume we all agree maybe at this point. Porter for LMA, or do you wait for where LMA goes?
I'm in on Porter over LMA. I think LaMarcus Aldridge, wherever he goes, he was only playing like 25 minutes a game for the Spurs, and he looked
4.5 rebounds a game for LaMarcus Aldridge in 26 minutes. Ugh.
He did not look spry.
You want to guess what his what his overall box score plus minus has been this season on a team with a winning record?
Overall, like minus 40? I don't know.
Minus 1.2, but still.
Oh, you're talking about net rating.
Yeah, okay. Net rating.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, no, I would also make that move. I think Kevin Porter's getting a little bit too much hype. And last night's blowout performance certainly is going to make that hype become even more ridiculous. But I do agree that that's the move. LMA, no matter where he lands, it's probably going to be a contender, right? So whether it's the Nets, whether it's the Clippers, whatever role it's going to be, it's probably going to be a 20 to 25 minute per night role. I don't see him going and playing 32 minutes for some contender and logging, the historical stat lines that we've seen from him for the past decade. It's going to be more of a complementary role. So at best, he is Serge Ibaka with the Clippers, and that's at best. I don't even think he's going to be that.
Yeah. I like him going to the Suns, actually, backing up DeAndre Ayton. They need some help at the 5, and they kind of play a more traditional center role. But fantasy-wise, yeah, he's dead weight. The follow-up question was Larry Nance or Kevin Love from waivers?
That's tough.
I think I lean to Larry. I expect him to just at least play more games than Love.
Yeah, the games play is where it gets interesting. I mean, we know Larry Nance can be like a top 60 guy when he gets those minutes, right? Maybe even better than that if he gets like the real starters minutes. I don't know. I mean, Kevin Love can be like the 30th ranked player in fantasy if he's healthy and plays 35 minutes or whatever.
And motivated.
Yeah. I don't know. I would feel safer about Nance, but obviously the upside is with Kevin Love. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I think I would aim for the upside. It's hard to tell what Cleveland's going to do. I think we could see Nance play some 3. He could also.
We'll see Nance. Yeah, definitely.
We could also see either Nance or Love see some backup minutes at the 5 behind Jared Allen. But it's tough there. I mean, essentially, it's probably going to be one or the other, or neither. It could be neither one. They could just split the minutes at the 4, so fit dead evenly that it makes it hard for either one of them to carve out.
Night to night, different star at the 4.
Yeah, exactly. But I like Love's upside a little bit more, because even when Nance was seeing 30 plus minutes on a pretty regular basis earlier this season, he was solid, and
he was great. He was great first 20 games.
He was solid. 33 minutes.
Great for Larry Nance. He was great for Larry Nance.
Yeah, 9 and 7. So 9 and 7 with 3 assists per game. He was solid. Only 57% from the line. Larry Nance has always been overrated because he goes out there. He'll have the occasional big game, but yeah, I actually think he's too inconsistent. I go with Love.
All right, next question from Brandon Charles. Would y'all, I'm trying to quote Brandon, would y'all trade away Montrezl Harrell and Jordan Clarkson for Porzingis, or as Brandon says, Porzingi? He's in a points league, head-to-head.
Yes. I would.
You make that trade?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here. Yeah, I mean, you get 40 to 50 points of upside with Porzingis. The 25 apiece you're getting from Harrell and Clarkson, you can just probably find that in the waiver wire. Or stream it. I mean, you can stream those points probably. I mean, we don't know your league format.
Right. My apologies to Brandon. On the tube, I was more conservative. I said if you're playoffs, I might stick with those 2. If you need upside and need to make a run to make the playoffs, go with Porzingis. All right, next question from Anthony Jones. Should I pick up, and this is one of 4 options, the Time Lord Robert Williams, Yusuf Nurkic, Mitchell Robinson, or Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I think if you're in a good spot right now, I would pick up Nurkic. If you don't need production this minute. Otherwise, if you are borderline, you
need production now.
Mitchell Robinson would be the call.
Over Time Lord?
Yeah, I think so.
6 blocks of Time Lord last night.
I mean, with Smart coming back, I feel like they're not going to do as much. They don't need as many center minutes. I don't know. I mean, they have 3 centers.
Yeah.
Right?
I think Nurkic is the answer. Jaren Jackson, too many questions about when he's going to return, given the news that came out this week. Mitchell Robinson, I'm actually not convinced that he is going to – he might earn his starting job back, but I think he's going to have a decreased role once he does return. He was playing almost 29 –
Oh, go ahead, Shannon. Sorry.
He was almost 29 minutes per game, 8.5, with 1.2 steals, 1.5 blocks. The defensive stats, fantastic for Robinson. Decent rebounding. Free throw percentage, absolutely horrendous, under 48%. I actually just think Nerlens has played too well. And you're talking about Thibodeau. I think he's going to roll with Nerlens, and even if Nerlens ends up coming off the bench and Mitch Rob gets his starting spot back, I think Nerlens is going to eat into too many minutes. Nerlens was in and out of the lineup. He dealt with some injuries earlier this season when Mitch Rob was kind of locked into a bigger role. But I really think the way the Knicks have played, the fact that they are competing this season, I think Nerlens is going to have a good 25-minute per game role at least moving forward. So no, I'm good. I will avoid Mitch Rob and go with Nurkic. Their timetables are pretty similar, and I think Nurkic has got the highest upside of the bunch as well.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go back to your point about if you need help now, only because Robert Williams is playing, and Robinson, we're estimating the 20th, but he had surgery on his shooting hand. And so I feel like we don't know. We'll see. Comes back.
I was just about to say that. I thought he was back like right after the All-Star break. I misremembered when his return date was. So I do have to, I'm going to rescind my advice and go with Robert Williams if you need help now. No question.
But to Shannon's point, we feel biggest upside, Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah.
And that's it for our fan feedback, gentlemen.
Man, Williams is good.
Yeah, he has been good. Okay, let's move on to the waiver wire segment of the show, where we each hand out one player that's available in 50% of leagues and one player that's available in 75% or more of leagues. First one for me, available in at least 50% of leagues, something I was not expecting at all. Joe Ingles, only 49% rostered on Yahoo. He's ranked
Mr.
70.
Khakis.
Yeah, he is also my dull suggestion of the week as I steal Ken's segment.
Season.
Yeah, Ingles. Yeah, Ingles is 77th ranked per game in 8-cat this month, and like we know who he is. He hovers around that 75 to 100 range.
Nice assist numbers.
He just has to be rostered in a 12-team league. It's a really shocking. Yeah, it is mandatory.
Preferably by the oldest person in your league. If you have an age range in your league, the oldest person should own Joe Ingles.
Yeah, or the slowest person physically. How about you, Shannon? Who's available in 50% of leagues?
Yeah, this stuff. I think we all wanted to go with the same couple guys here. I am going to go to the Rockets and go with Jae'Sean Tate. I know Ken's been beating this drum for a few weeks now, but I think Jae'Sean Tate is just being a little bit overlooked here because of the Kevin Porter hype. You still got House there, but with PJ Tucker gone, with DeMarcus Cousins gone, with Eric Gordon now hurt, Oladipo probably gone before the trade deadline. I think Tate's going to see consistent run. He's been pretty dang good already, and I can't envision whether it's a supporting roll off the bench, a role in the starting lineup. He's been moved back and forth a little bit recently. I just feel like he's going to be close to that 30-minute mark, and when he does, he's going to chip in some steals, some three-pointers. Maybe not a ton of three-pointers, but he'll get steals, decent scoring, 12, 13 points per game, decent rebounding, and hold decent value in like a 12-team, 14-team league. And right now he's only owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues.
I'm with you on the Oladipo probably getting traded by Houston, and that to me is maybe the validity behind the Kevin Porter helium, in that I think that opens a lot more minutes for Porter. Heck, Tate's already playing 25, 27 minutes a game. So I jumping ahead here, but I've got Porter as my available in 50% of leagues. He's 30% in Yahoo, 32% in ESPN. Houston's a mess. They've lost 14 games in a row. I couldn't recommend Tate for a third week in a row. So I had to go somebody different. But I like the Oladipo trade, freeing up a lot of minutes for Porter. So there's some nice upside there.
Yeah, if you would have mentioned Tate for a third week in a row. That would be like me mentioning TJ McConnell for 2 straight weeks.
Yeah.
We should have a section of guys who are just like
ditto.
They just stay in the section.
So
the ditto section.
Alex, I'm assuming you agree on Porter. I know that was the first name that popped into my head. That's who I was going to recommend here as well. I
got to the notes first.
I will just say, like, I think the helium on Porter is a little absurd. Like, I don't know how much value he's going to have in shallower leagues. I do worry about like 10-team leagues, how much value he's actually going to have. And then I know I understand he put up stats in the G League. And then last night, of course, having that 13-point, 5 rebound, 10 assists, 3 steals, 1 block performance is encouraging. But also, a lot of those minutes came in garbage time. They were down by 20, 30 points all game.
Houston might only be playing in garbage time once they do Oladipo.
This is true. But Christian Wood's going to come back probably before too long. So, if you're going with Wood's healthy and Wall's healthy and Porter's let's say Gordon's healthy too. Oladipo gets traded. So that makes Porter the 3rd or 4th option depending on the night. I just wouldn't get too excited about it. I think he definitely in 12 and 14 team leagues, he'll probably get enough minutes to hold value, but thinking he's going to be immediately like a top 80 player is questionable in my opinion.
He might be a guy you grab and stash if you have room on the hope that Oladipo gets dealt.
He's certainly worth taking a flyer on. I just think it's been a little bit absurd, the helium.
Well, Shannon, while you're up, you might as well mention you and I have the same long shot of the week, also my dull suggestion of the week.
Yeah, Rudy Gay. We talked about LaMarcus Aldridge leaving San Antonio. You have like Trey Lyles would be an obvious replacement in the starting lineup, but Trey Lyles was essentially out of the rotation in that first game with LMA out. Rudy Gay is back. He's healthy now. He's only owned in about 17% of Yahoo leagues, even less, I think about 10 or 11% of ESPN leagues. He's not very exciting, but I do think Rudy Gay is, he's coming off basically 34 fantasy points in his return to action. He was out for a handful of games before the break. But really, there's going to be 25 to 28 minutes for Rudy Gay with Aldridge gone. And he's going to give you steady production, 3-point production, steals, decent rebounds for the amount of
everything.
A little bit of
everything. Rudy.
So not exciting, but I do like him.
34 years old, not getting any younger. Never going to blow up for 40 points and 10 boards, but he's going to get you blocks, going to get you some triples, going to get you some steals. 13 and 9 on Wednesday with 3 threes and 3 steals.
I think he and Tate are it's a close call for me. I think either one is a decent. I might favor Rudy Gay a little bit more just because I think the minutes could creep up some. So Rudy Gay he's at 22 minutes per game this year. He was just under 22 minutes per game last year. With Aldridge gone, even with Keldon Johnson and some of the other guys in the rotation now, I still could see Rudy Gay getting back up to like 25, 26 minutes per. And with that, I might like him more than Tate if he actually hits that minute mark.
I'm surprised we haven't heard any trade discussion about Rudy Gay.
I was just going to say the exact same thing, Alex. Going to say the exact same thing.
34 years old, last year of his contract.
Yeah. They're making the playoffs, though. That's what makes there's a very good chance the Spurs are making the playoffs. I mean, they're 18 and 15 right now. I don't see them falling below, some of these other teams. It's kind of weird that Aldridge is leaving, but at the same time, that we've talked about before.
Isn't it good for the Spurs, Aldridge leaving though?
It is. I think. I mean, we've talked about how we all think they should just blow it up and give the young guys minutes anyways. So maybe they do move on from Rudy Gay, but as long as he's there, I like him as a 12-teamer.
All right. Before we get into DFS, Alex has to give us his long shot of the week. And I think there's a high chance we get a butchered name pronunciation.
No, this is Alexei Pokushevsky.
Oh, sweet. Well, mwah. Mwah. Bravo, Alex.
Yeah, 1% rostered on Yahoo. I don't even think he's 1% on ESPN.
They just round up. They can't do 0. It crashes.
He played 30 minutes yesterday coming out of the G League. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks.
8'9" or something, right?
He's a legit 7-footer who thinks he's a point guard. And
he's the next Luka.
Listen, his field goal percentage is going to be awful. He's a better points league option, and the Thunder have some guys out, right? So his minutes were boosted a little bit, but they drafted him for a reason. They want to play him. The G League season's over. They're trying to tank essentially, and they're failing because Al Horford is too good. So I think.
Does he see some minute at centers on the nights they rest Horford? Because they're still every back-to-back, Horford gets a nap.
Yeah, they play Roby for like 30 minutes, and then they do Muscala for like 18. So, like, Pokuševski's more of a small forward than he is a center.
Get a bag of balls at the deadline for Muscala. They should make that deal.
I think it's more likely they just let him go. They probably already have to. We already have too many basketballs. We don't need another.
Yeah.
We're good on equipment.
The issue with Poku is he makes Tayshaun Prince look beefy. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think he's listed
as Claxton looks chunky.
Pokuševski is listed at 7 foot 190. By the way,
that's so insane.
But he's a fraction of Shannon or I, and he's 7 foot.
Half the RotoWire staff would play bully ball with
Clay League just posted him up. Take him on the block, Clay. Only 3 of us are enjoying that joke, and the one baseball fan at RotoWire that listens to the pod.
Yeah, the one crossover fan we have.
Let's I want to talk. Let's talk about Poku for a minute. I'm going with Poku. That's what I will always refer to him as. I worry about him. I think he's worth a stash. If you're in a deep enough league, 14-team league, and you've got extra roster spots, he's certainly worth a stash. Points leagues, all the better. Like Alex mentioned, the field goal percentage is going to be horrible. I am somewhat concerned. I think we'll see flashes. We've seen a couple games already where he has like 25 fantasy points. But he also was demoted to the G League for a reason. And it's, after the first, 20 games or so. I think it was 17. He made 17 appearances, and then he was demoted to the G League. And that was because he wasn't ready. I
think they taught him how to shave at the G League, right?
Right. I wonder how long he'll stick around, let alone get starting minutes. Baisley was out, so that's a big part of it. That's why he started. It just depends. We've talked about the Thunder and how they are going to have to eventually go full tank. They're winning too many games right now. So maybe giving Poku the minutes is the way they go the full tank.
Let's move on to Friday DFS. It is a 7-game slate. The highest over-under on the day is 76ers at Wizards with a 234.5 over-under. Some quick injuries. We have all these guys are questionable. Bradley Beal, Kevin Love, Paul Millsap, Darius Garland, John Wall. As always, check the RotoWire lineups page. Check the news. Just because news moves so fast in the NBA. My first guy for this slate that I plugged in was Kelly Olynyk against the Bulls.
Starter Kelly Olynyk.
Adebayo was out, and Olynyk averages 35 fantasy points in the games that Adebayo does not play. And with Olynyk being only $4,500 against a mediocre Bulls team, I am more than okay with that. We also have revenge game narrative for Jimmy Butler, who went for 63 fantasy points yesterday against the Magic, and Butler is 9,600. So I think you can play those two together against Chicago, and you should cross 5 times value on both of those guys combined. It would be surprising if you didn't.
Gentlemen, I'm going to let you run with the DFS section, but before I do, I've got one key question. If you're not going with Olynyk at center, and that is awfully tempting, do you have to go spend big money on Joel Embiid playing the terrible Washington Wizards, who are starting Mo Wagner at center? Embiid is 10,700 on FanDuel, and no Ben Simmons tonight. So the to me, the blowout chances are a little less without Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, without Simmons, they don't really have a dedicated like guy to throw on Bradley Beal, and so could bring the game closer. I think that's a good call. I also like Gobert, but I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah,
he's certainly an option. Embiid's been a beast all year. There's not many guys you can put in your lineup who can get you 70 points, and he's done it multiple times this season. So I would not fault anyone for spending up and getting Embiid in their lineup. For me, I hate this slate so much. Even the guys like Olenek and Jimmy Butler, players for, I love targeting against the Chicago Bulls, but Miami is then one of the slower paced teams in the league, and usually the over/under is lower. They also played last night. The Heat played last night, so I'm hesitant to go with Olenek or Butler because of that. And it actually makes me want to target some of the other Heat players a little bit more. Like maybe Tyler Hero gets more minutes tonight because he only played 28 minutes last night. I think there's blowout potential here on either side. It could be the Bulls. The Bulls also played last night. It's just tough.
Sloppy.
The Rockets played last night. They got blown out last night. Now they're playing against the Jazz. That's going to be another blowout. There's just so many blowout potential games in this slate that it's tough for me to carve out some players I love. I will say, let me just mention a couple. Malcolm Brogdon, $6,600. Hate the matchup against the Lakers, but Brogdon at $6,600 is tough. It's tough to pass up. And then Colin Sexton, this especially if Garland misses time, if he sits out tonight and he's currently questionable, I really like Sexton. These are his 3 games before the break. 43.5 fantasy points, 54.6, and 54.8. Really humming along, getting tons and tons of minutes. Those were against some tough defensive and slower paced teams, Philadelphia, the Rockets, and the Pacers. 7,800. Sexton's, he rarely gets up that high, priced that high, but I feel like it's still worth it to plug him in, especially if Garland misses time.
Yeah, that Brogdon price is shocking. 6,600. I mean, this is like 5 games with at least 50 fantasy points this season. I mean, he does not have a lot of games where he's like under 30 fantasy points at all. It's actually 5 total games this season where he's under 30 fantasy points. So you're getting him for 6,600. That kind of feels like a free square.
Guys, let me ask you this. With DeRozan out, who do you like in the Spurs as they are at home facing the Magic?
Well, I think Shannon kind of mentioned it. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge wasn't doing that much for them. So I don't think it opens up like a ton.
No, I'm talking about DeRozan's out though tonight.
Oh, DeRozan. Sorry. I thought you said Aldridge. That one's hard. I think DeJounte Murray already gets a decent amount of usage, so I don't think he can go sky high, but maybe there's more Keldon Johnson. I could see that. I mean, him and DeRozan are not dissimilar players. Yep. Lonnie Walker probably gets into the fold a little bit.
Keldon Johnson, 5,400 on FanDuel, by the way. Rudy Gay, who we mentioned, only 5,000.
Yeah. I like those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I have Keldon Johnson in my lineup right now, and I think he's a decent option.
That is a game that could be tragically low scoring, though. I mean, this is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Versus Orlando.
This is the worst slate of the season. As far as matchups, slow paced teams, the second half of back-to-backs, it's got everything. I think it's a horrible slate.
Shannon, to your point of the awful slate and all the back-to-backs, could Jordan Clarkson go off against a terrible Rockets team as they don't have a bench because now the whole bench is starting?
Certainly possible. I think he's an option tonight. I mean, some of these games are going to be so ugly. With that game in particular, I think will be bad. That even Jordan Clarkson might see limited run. it's going to be their third, the guards behind Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Clarkson that could end up seeing an extra run. I think tonight's going to be bad. That Jazz game, I'm very hesitant to target any players from it unless it's some of the deeper bench guys who are going to see increased run.
Yeah, like I'd like Gobert in theory in that game. He's 8,000. The Houston Rockets don't really have a real center or like an experienced center. But again,
especially with PJ Tucker gone.
The spread on this game is 17 points in favor of Utah. And I don't think that's like a bad number. You know what I mean?
Gobert may never take his sweats off. He'll just play for 2 minutes and like, all right, thanks guys. Sit down here.
That would be incredible. As Shannon was alluding to, we might get a lot of Georges Niang minutes or Mie Oni.
Oh, Niang. Yeah. He's got to be a dull pickup one of these weeks, just for the dullness.
I've got some news, breaking news that is not dull. Karis LeVert is returning to action tomorrow.
Hey, tomorrow, yes.
This news broke while we were recording here. So he's not playing tonight against the Lakers, but he will be back against the Suns. So that's
if the Rockets wind up dealing Oladipo, is the Pacer front office just like, they like, does it make it look smarter? LeVert goes off for 18 tonight and looks relatively healthy.
It makes no sense. That swap that the Rockets did with the Pacers, I just don't get it. But
LeVert's on their timeline. LeVert was on their timeline. What are you doing, Houston?
The Rockets not getting LeVert or Ben Simmons while trading James Harden is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like you end up with Oladipo and picks, and you're going to end up with more picks for Oladipo probably, and like probably some maligned young player. You're going to get Frank Ntilikina and picks. Okay. That is good though. I think LeVert will have a really good season with Indiana. I mean,
should he return healthier? I mean, his injury was a cyst removal, right? Like, presumably he's in great shape, but I don't know anything about that procedure he had.
I don't know. I mean, he was playing with it and he was playing well.
Yeah.
So, might be a little bit lighter, I guess. Okay, let's move on, Ken, to your old man rant.
We're in a rush today, so I'll reiterate a past rant. Last year's playoffs teams got earned uniforms from Nike over the All-Star break. So for all the 16 playoff teams, they got a fourth set of uniforms. Why? Most of them are pointless. As Alex pointed out, the Mavericks fourth unis just look like the regular unis, but they say Mavs instead of Mavericks. They're all terrible. I do like the Bucks and their antler jerseys. I actually like those. But for the most part, this is stupid. Stop it.
I like the Utah jerseys.
The Bucks jerseys feel like something they would have considered for the actual jersey, and then it just kind of didn't, which is good. But yeah, I agree with you. Too many. I mean, I love alternates, but some of them are so bad that it's like, why are you doing this? Like the amount of teams that just go white alternate or black alternate with like the team logo in the middle. It's like, like
the Thunder have so many uniforms. None of them make sense. And Thunder is such a terrible name. I pick a mascot. Can we get an animal in Oklahoma? There must be some animals in Oklahoma.
Someone on Twitter, I forgot who, one of the bigger NBA writers suggested that teams that do not make the playoffs should get unearned jerseys.
Yes, remove a set.
Well, they either remove a set or you have to wear your worst jersey in team history.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. The Wizards would just be trapped in those gold and black ones.
The gold
until they won a game
decades.
Or something. Yeah. Okay, mispronounced names. We just assume.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Our fan Akshar Iyer. I'm way less confident.
Akshar Iyer, but I just assume I got that wrong. I wrote that before before the show started. I just assumed I was going to put his news.
I saw that. Yeah. So we apologize. And then you had Matisse. You said tabbouleh.
Right, which is the Middle Eastern food dish that I really like. But yeah, Can you give the proper? Is it Thabile? Is it Thabile? I've never gotten it right.
It's either Thibault or Thibault, and I can never
Shannon,
remember.
help us out here.
It's Thibault, apparently. Matisse Thibault.
Thibault, yeah.
It's not Tabbouleh.
No, it's not.
With a little lemon, and some fish on the side. Mwah.
On that note, thank you everybody for joining us on the RotoWire Fantasy Cooking Podcast. Not really sure what that went. Ken, take us out of here.
Let's go to Dallas. Those Mavericks we were just discussing, where Kristaps Porzingis said the following after going 0 for 11. Quote, Kobe says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Tonight I missed all 100. Attention passengers. This 3-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line. I think Porzingis.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.